Hey guys, it's Sasha. This week, Rachel Reeves announced her budget, and on the surface, it was a bit of a nothing burger. The main taxes didn't change. Income tax, VAT, national insurance are all exactly the same as they were before. But what if I told you that the average person in the UK will be paying 7%, more than 7% more in tax from this coming April? If your salary is around 35 or 40,000 pounds, somewhere in the middle, you will be paying 7% more tax. If your salary is more than 40,000, you will be paying something closer to 8 or even 9%, depending on how much you're making. And if you're minimum wage, I'm really sorry, I have bad news for you because your tax is going up by around 10%. This is actually exactly what is going to happen from April 2026 in just a few months. And I am going to explain to you why your taxes are going up a lot more than you probably thought they are. I was actually surprised that absolutely nobody in the media picked up on the specifics of this, on the actual numbers. Actually, who am I kidding? Of course, nobody in the media picked up on the fact that everybody is going to be paying 7 to 10% more tax from April, because that would involve diving into the numbers, which is precisely what I am going to do in this video. So you've probably heard of the concept of fiscal drag. Fiscal drag is when the boundaries at which you start paying higher tax do not move while salaries do go up on average every year because people get pay rises. And so naturally, more and more people every year go over each of these thresholds and pay more and more income tax. The thing that most people probably do not quite fully appreciate is the size of this problem, how big it actually is. Because the relationship between the rate at which your tax goes up and the amount of tax you pay is non-linear. This is a lot more than just a stealth tax. It's worse than I think most people imagine, because imagine that you are earning the median UK salary of 39,000 roughly, which is the average according to the ONS. And then imagine that you get the average wage increase in the UK right now. And right now, according to the same ONS, that's 4.8% per year in the latest data. So if you are on an average salary and you get the average pay increase in the country, the amount of tax and national insurance that you will be paying will go up by 7.1%. So when Rachel Reeves very briefly mentioned that the income tax bands are frozen until 2031, what she actually announced was that taxes are going to go up by over 7% every year. People should be really angry about this, because this is not a small thing. This is a huge thing. Imagine the amount of tax that we're all going to be paying to HMRC is going up by 7% in the next year. Imagine if that's how much they increased everyone's tax bill openly, not by this stealth method. And when you put it that way, it just doesn't sound good, right? It just sounds like a huge, massive increase in tax. Well, that's because it is. It is precisely that. For most people who earn less or more than the average, your taxes will go up more than the 7.1% average because of the way it works. So for example, if you're on £25,000 a year and you are on minimum wage, that's the minimum wage salary, then your salary, for example, goes up by the same 4.1%. Well, after that increase, only 4.1%, by the way, because that's the amount by which the minimum wage is going up, you will pay on minimum wage 8.3% more tax. So the rate at which your tax payments go up is literally double the rate at which your minimum wage is going up. And if you earn £100,000 and you get the average pay increase, you will be paying 8.5% more to the taxman. So most of us are paying a lot more tax every year because of fiscal drag. And it's no wonder that even though wages are going up, people just don't have money. And if you do have money, you should probably consider investing it on the Etoro app, who are the sponsors of today's video. Etoro has been a super popular investing app all over the world for years. They have a fantastic app, it's super easy to use, it's amazing value, but they've always been missing one thing: ISAs. Well, until now, because Etoro have just launched not one, but two ISAs in the UK. There's the stocks and shares ISA, which is amazing. I've been asking them to do this for years. And then there is also the cash ISA. The interest rate is seriously good, although it does change. So if you're watching this in the future, hello from the future, that rate might be different. And here is the best bit. Etoro are giving you serious perks if you want to open their ISA. So if you want to open a stocks and shares ISA and deposit at least £500 or transfer 15,000 from another provider, Etoro will pay 3% cashback on that money. So just for moving your ISA from some other broker that you don't like anymore, you can get an immediate 3%. Not bad, right? And if you sign up for the cash ISA, you'll get a boosted rate for the first 12 months. Right now, that rate is at 4.66%, which is higher than the Bank of England rate. Both of these offers are available until the end of the year, but the sooner you sign up, the sooner you'll get the bonus. So make sure you go and check out Etoro. Click on the link in the description or in the pinned comment. Seriously, it's 3% cashback. Go and do it. So here's a rough chart of the distribution of wages in the UK from 4 years ago. Most people were somewhere here in the middle. And this line here, this is the crucial line. That's where the 40% tax band starts. And so we have had 4 years of freezes. This line has not moved at all while wages have been moving to the right. They've been increasing every year, and you can see how big this effect is, because at the start only a small extra number of people go and move into the new tax band, and then a few more people, and then more people, because not only is it the case the amount of extra tax you pay goes up by double the rate at which wages are going up, but you also get this second order effect where a lot more people are being pushed into the higher tax band, paying that 40% tax at the same time. We are now just £10,000 away from literally half of everybody in the UK paying the higher rate tax, which was originally meant to only apply to people earning way more than average, only to people earning quite substantial salaries. And check this out. If you take the current median wage of £39,039 and you add 5% per year, which is the rate that wages are going up at the moment, then in 2031, mystically, the year until which these tax bands have now been frozen in this latest budget, then the median wage becomes, drumroll, £49,825. So we get right up to the median point where 50% of the entire country, using pretty basic maths, will be paying 40% tax. This is not an if, this is not a fear-mongering thing. This is exactly where it's headed based on the numbers that we have today. This is why the government is doing absolutely nothing about inflation, which is running at double the rate of inflation in other developed countries. Because if inflation is rife, if inflation is allowed to keep on going, it means that wages will keep going up. And when wages go up, you get double the impact, triple the impact, quadruple the impact in terms of the amount of tax that you get to earn. And this is why they are now doing everything possible to keep making wages grow. They keep saying that it's to put more pounds into people's pockets. The truth is the exact opposite. It is to take more pounds out of people's pockets and into the government coffers. You could not make it up. It's because there is this wave of extra tax that moves towards the line, and the closer you get to the year at which the median hits the line, the bigger the impact in terms of how much extra tax is being generated. This is why, despite growth being nowhere, despite there being absolutely no progress in terms of actual economy moving, the forecast that the OBR is making are saying that in 2031, the numbers are going to be all right. The numbers are going to add up, and there's going to be a 22 billion difference, positive difference, in terms of how much the government is spending on their day-to-day spending and how much they're bringing in taxes. The reason is because this wave of extra tax will mean that all of us are paying fucking huge amounts of money over to HMRC. So when you understand this, just how big this tax increase really is, Every other announcement in this budget suddenly makes total sense. It's like, it's so obvious. Because think about it. If you know that you are doing this sneaky increase in the tax that people are paying, which is this year going to be somewhere between 7 and 10%, depending on how much you earn, then imagine if you announced a bunch of seemingly unrelated policies which make more people go and pay you that 7% extra tax or whatever. And that would push everybody towards the 40% tax rate. So for example, 8 million people in the UK make pension contributions via salary sacrifice. That's the method where you can agree to reduce your salary and the extra on top that you would be earning goes into your pension. The reason people do that is because you can do that without having to pay any tax or national insurance on those contributions. That's what the government set up. That's what the whole point of the thing was. And from next year, you'll be capped at £2,000 per year on the amount of money that you can put into your pension via salary sacrifice. If you want to pay more than that, for example, if you're older, if you earn more money, well, you will have to pay national insurance first. And so obviously, a lot of people are going to be dissuaded from contributing to their pensions, which is clearly extremely short-sighted. I cannot overstate how stupid, how incredibly dumb this strategy is. Dissuading people from contributing to pensions at a point when the government cannot afford to pay state pensions is so incredibly dumb. But anyway, it's the current government making policies that just fuck over the future generations by actively discouraging people from saving from retirement. Who came up with this? Well done, Rachel Reeves. Give yourself a massive pat on the back. From where I'm sitting, pension contributions should be free of tax regardless of how you technically make them. If you go and put money into your pension, you should not have to pay any tax on that money until you then draw it as income. That's my opinion, because these pension contributions also get taxed when you draw the pension later on. And so at the moment, you basically get double taxation. But anyway, then there was a change to dividend tax. The basic rate and the higher rate of dividend tax have gone up by 2%. And what is the reason for that, do you think? Why did it go up? Well, it's because it used to be the case that you could pay less tax as a business owner by paying yourself dividends. So people went and set up a company. They would take a huge risk in many, many cases. They would borrow money. They would personally try and make their business work. They would go and take out actual loans, personal loans, because nobody would lend you for a brand new business. They would go and max out their credit cards. They would open up some new credit cards. If you know any owners of small businesses, go and talk to them. They will tell you it's brutal. If you've never run a small business and had a lean year, it can be very, very difficult. Then you go and hire people and you pay those people salaries. And then the vast majority of businesses will either fail, or even if they don't fail, they will never grow to any meaningful size. And if that business does fail, if the business goes bust, guess what? You do not get a refund from the government for taking the risk to start it. Nobody is going to come and give you your money back. Your loans are still there. Every month you have to make a payment. Your credit cards are still maxed out. They're still there. And how you're going to figure that out? Oh, well, nobody gives a shit. You just have to keep on going. Well, the return for all of this risk that a typical small business startup person takes on, and the benefit to the society that they create by creating jobs, by paying a whole load of taxes, by paying business rates, by paying corporation taxes, the benefit has been traditionally that if you do get into that tiny little fraction of businesses that actually do well and succeed, you will have the benefit of being able to take a lower tax rate by paying yourself dividends rather than paying yourself a salary. And then gradually, over the last few years, that difference has been eroded. And now, this latest budget pretty much completely destroys dividend tax as a viable option. It is no longer a viable option for most people. And remember, corporation tax has also gone up. If you make enough money, it's now 25%, which is quite a lot. And it starts going up from just 50,000 a year profit. And that's important because dividends get paid after corporation tax is taken out. So it's not okay to just compare dividend tax to income tax, because you have to account for the fact that first your profits get 25% taken out for corporation tax, and only then do you have the privilege of paying dividend tax on the remainder. So the idea here is that some people see it as unfair. They see that people who own their businesses get to pay a lower rate of tax. So they decided to level these out, because that's the kind of environment that we're in right now. Politics of envy. Because guess what these company directors have to do now? They have to pay themselves a salary. So they get to get dragged into this whole fiscal drag thing that everyone else is getting hit by as well, because their tax will now be also going up by 7 or 8 or 10% per year. The problem is that once again, Rachel Reeves and whoever the dimwits who came up with this policy are just incredibly, extremely short-sighted. It is like trying to make some money today at the expense of making tons of money in the future. I don't get it, because these changes will mean that fewer people take the risk to start a business in the first place, because the risks are a lot higher. The tax is a lot higher. And sure, there are the 0.1% of businesses that you read about in the papers that eventually get acquired or sold or bought out by private equity or whatever. And so the situation there is obviously different. They are talking about capital gains, a whole different story. But for the 99.9% of businesses, which are the bread and butter of the UK economy, which do not go and do that, this type of thinking is just going to completely kill the entrepreneurial spirit. If you have a decent job, paying yourself a decent salary, do you really want to take a huge risk, work 25 hours every day, and then if you are lucky, if everything just happens to go your way and your business actually turns a profit, then you'll have to pay more tax than if you just stayed in your regular job before. And here is the thing that a lot of people don't understand. It's not a black and white situation. It is all relative. If just 1 or 2% of the people who would start a business choose not to do it, that is going to take 1 to 2% from future GDP today, but not from any one year, from every year. So this year we might be taking 1 or 2% from future GDP because those people are not going to be starting those businesses. And then next year, another 1 or 2% of people who would be starting new businesses that might multiply on top of these other businesses will choose not to do that as well. And every year, maybe this year, we're going to suffer another 1.1 or 2% gap, in 10 or 20 years' time, when those businesses would have got to a place where they're going to be actually really big relatively within the UK. And then there's going to be another year and another year and another year, and it doesn't look good. This is just not good. This is going to affect jobs. This is going to affect the economy. This is going to cause the economy to stagnate. We are already in the UK in deep shit with almost no innovation. There's no tech companies. Nobody is choosing to base their startups in the UK if they can help it. Young people are leaving the UK actively. Anyone who has an opportunity, to go and work in other countries is leaving. We are tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands now, of young people leaving the UK. They're not contributing to society. They're not starting tomorrow's businesses. They're not paying tax that pays for the welfare of older people. And Rachel Reeves seems adamant that the UK does not want to change this. They do not want to encourage anybody to do a startup. If she did want to do that, she could have added, like one policy in the entire budget that actually tries to stimulate growth. For some reason, I didn't hear the word growth mentioned at all. Not in like the normal sense, not in the sense of growing the economy through new business, through encouraging people to take the risks. So what else got announced? Well, minimum wage is going up again. Not quite as much as it has done in the last 6 years, but still comfortably way ahead of inflation. Minimum wages going up 4.1% to £12.71. For 18 to 20-year-olds is going up 8.5% to £10.85. And for under 18s is going up 6% to £8 an hour. The government has this obsession that everyone, no matter their level of experience or age or anything, should have the same minimum wage. And I frankly don't really understand it. If you have ever employed young people, I've employed lots of young people. If you've employed young people, you will understand that not all people who earn minimum wage are the same. Some require significantly more handholding. Some require a lot more explaining of how, I don't know, just regular work works. What is okay, what is not okay, what is acceptable, what is not acceptable. There is a reason historically in like every country out there why there is a difference between what very young people earn and what people who are slightly older earn. And leveling it doesn't actually help the very young people. What it does is it fucks everyone over because the businesses cannot afford to pay very high wages to people who are perhaps not good enough to be worth that extra wage. So all that will happen is those people just won't have a job. And that's what's going to happen. The UK has already got the worst wage compression that it's ever had as a result of recent budgets pushing up the minimum wage. This means that the difference between the absolute lowest pay and the average pay has become very small. It used to be like when I was entering the workforce, right? Minimum wage was, what was it, like £7, something like that. And so the typical like average wage for somebody on minimum wage was somewhere in the 15,000, 16,000 pounds sort of territory. I don't know. I'm not going to do the maths. But, you know, as a graduate, if you got a decent job, maybe you would be able to earn somewhere between 25 and 30, maybe up to 35 for the very, very high paying jobs. Average wage was, what was it, like double or whatever, you know, and the scale was significantly stretched. Now everything is compressed. If you work 40 hours a week on minimum wage, your salary is £26,400. So the average salary, which is £39,000, is now less than 50% more than just the bare minimum, the level below which you cannot earn if you work those hours. And the reason this is a problem is it creates just a massive disincentive for anyone to try hard. It stops people from hiring people in the first place because it is too expensive to hire people, but also the people that are in jobs just don't give a shit. They don't care. Why bother working hard? If you get a promotion after working your ass off for a few years, your salary will hardly change. And because you'll be pushed into the next tax band, they'll take just a load of that salary in tax anyway. And you'll just have to do a whole load more work without seeing any more money. There is no incentive for people to try and go and get a better job. Mobility of the workforce is dropping because all jobs kind of pay the same. And this is very bad for the economy. The increase that we're seeing this year in minimum wage is a lot lower than in the last 6, which I suppose is kind of good, but it comes on top of those previous 6 years of insane increases. So the problem now is that those increases have created a situation which is still there. If you don't address it, it continues making things worse every year. Just like every month we go and look at the data and we see how the number of vacancies is dropping, the number of jobs is dropping. Why is this happening? Well, it's pretty obvious. Well, this is the situation that we're in right now. It's a bit shit. Hope you enjoyed the update. And remember, make sure you go and try out Etoro if you're interested, especially those ISA products. Go and check them out. Link in the description and in the pinned comment. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you later.